It is Saturday the 11th of June and I'm back in the UK. Yay. Overjoyed to be back, as you can probably imagine, after spending 17 days in Orlando and enjoying the parks and the people and the place and everywhere around Orlando and the shopping, and if I could move there, I would. Honest to God, would live out there. But we don't, so we have to come back to the UK, and while it's been fairly warm, it's pissed down with rain outside, and it's grey, and it's dark, and it's horrible, and it's rubbish to be back. So, I am going to review this, which I was actually bought at our last trip last year by my mum and dad, who found this in it might have been ABC Spirits, I think. Now this is actually, Mum and Dad basically got it me because they'd seen it was a Florida whiskey, and now doing the research into it, it's actually not that far away from where we were staying. Our holiday home, second home, whatever you want to call it, is 10 minutes south of the Walt Disney World Resort. The distillery, which is Florida Farm Distillers, is actually in a place called, I'm guessing you pronounce it Umatilla, Umatilla, so I'm going to go for Umatilla, which is here, which is 30 miles northwest of Orlando Centre. So it's really not that far away at all, and I'm going to try and persuade my wife. Probably not going to happen, but when we go back, the plan is to go back next year, as we always do, is to actually go and visit these guys, because this is a relatively new distillery. It was set up in 2008, but it was the first product was launched in 2010 by a couple called Dick and Marty Waters. Now this, I'm hoping, is actually a picture of the two of them. I'm fairly certain it's Dick, and I'm hoping that the picture's also showing Marty as well. So they're a husband and wife who bought a farm, and essentially Marty was the reason it all set up. Marty had heard about, I think it's farmers in Minnesota that were basically subsidising their income from running the farm by launching and selling kind of real micro distillery craft products. And Dick was a keen whiskey drinker, and apparently she said to him, "How do you fancy making whiskey?" And he went, "Okay." So they did. So this is really, really small scale. This is 500 6-bottle cases are produced every year. This is their reserve, which is the standard whiskey. But they also have recently launched, I don't think it's that long ago, that they actually did a rye. And there is another version as well, which I think was called the Virgin. So I'm guessing it's maybe new casks or something like that. So when I was given this by my mum and dad, I was kind of like, okay, not too sure about this. On the back label, now these are hand labelled by Marty herself apparently as well. On the back label it does say, mellowed with orange and oak woods, young whiskey less than 1 year old. Now I'll be honest, that doesn't sound particularly attractive. But we're going to give them a chance, and now reading up on Dick and Marty. Dick is basically on a bit of a mission to prove that aging doesn't necessarily mean better whiskey. Now they use four types of grain in making this whiskey. They've got malted barley, they've got rye, they've got toasted rye flakes, and then corn from Florida. Now where the rest of it's gone, I know it was Florida corn, but the rest of them, they might be Florida, they might be brought in from somewhere else. Now, as far as I'm aware, it's 70% rye, so it's quite a high rye percentage, and it's not aged for that long. A couple of the interviews that I read with Dick himself were talking that he was basically saying that he wanted people to taste the grain, not the barrel. Now, barrels do impart a lot of flavour, and they are pretty key in whiskey maturation and whiskey flavour. So I think it's probably a bit of a misnomer to say that all the flavour comes from the spirit, the core spirit, kind of he's basically saying that, look, you can't just take any new make spirit and stick it in a cask and the cask will do all the work. You need to have a really good quality new make spirit to start with to actually then build upon. You can't make a crap spirit good. You can make a good spirit crap by putting it in the wrong casks, but you need to have a really good core to start with to give yourself a base, which is a fair argument. But I think it might be going a little bit too far by saying that you don't want to taste the barrel, because the casks itself do impart a lot of flavour, and they are the core reason why you get things that colour and with smooth flavour and depth and everything like that. Having had some new make spirit when I did the King's Barns, you could see that there was some good quality spirit there, but it needs then the time in the cask, whether it's 6 months, a year, 20 years, whatever, to improve upon, but they've got some good quality spirit to start with. So, if this is aged for less than 1 year, your initial gut reaction would be, well, it's had colouring added to it, because look how dark it is. I mean, it's really kind of deep orange. I'm assuming it's not. I really am. I'm going to give them, if I'm going to include them in the Twitter links. I'm hoping that they will actually watch this, and if they want to come back to me and say, no, we're definitely not adding colouring, then that's fine, because you would look at that, and if you were saying that was Scotch, particularly from someone like Diageo, and it was like quite, if that was an 8-year-old, you'd be saying, yeah, unless that's really heavily sherry, really rich sherry cask that's matured in, that's had colouring added to it. I'm going to put my hands up and go, I don't think it is coloured. So it's quite an impressive colour if it is under 1 year. But I'm reading good things about this, so I'm actually really intrigued. You're looking at about $50 a bottle for this as well. Now, it's mainly because it's micro distillery. There is not a lot of around it. I'll be honest, when I got this, and I'll put my hands up, when I got this from my mum and dad, and it was like micro batch Florida whiskey, blah, blah, blah. Young whiskey, less than 1 year, mellowed with orange and oak woods. I mean, oak woods, they're nearly all oak anyway, so it's that kind of weird. Balvenie did it when they said, in whiskey oak casks. Well, that's not narrowing it down, because it's all oak casks. Not all oak casks, but the vast majority of casks that you're doing. Orange wood could be interesting, but I kind of had a preconception looking at this that it was pretty cheap and nasty, and it's not. It's not cheap it's not cheap. Let's put it that way. But let's see if it is nasty or not. But what I'm reading about is implying that it's not nasty by any stretch of the imagination. So there's a really nice orangey colour to this. I'm really, really impressed with this colour. If they've not added any colouring to it, which I don't think they have, it's a cracking colour, a really lovely kind of dark orange colour to it. And it's bottled at 45%, so 90 proof. It's interesting, there's an almost dry white wine character to it, and I think that's the rye. If I'm right in my research notes, and this is 70% rye, then it's going to have quite not a harshness to it, but you're looking for a bit more kind of spiciness to it. But it's almost dry red wine. There is a tannin, there's a tannic feel to it as well on the nose. But it doesn't smell harsh. It really is kind of like almost a Pinot Noir red wine nose to it. Very intriguing indeed. That red wine in this actually carries on. It's like a light red wine. Really unusual. There's a dryness to it, but it's not an unpleasant dryness. There is some orange peel to it. There is a nice graininess. Very, very smooth indeed. Very little burn at the back of the throat. Nice mouthfeel, quite rich. But yeah, there is this strange kind of light tannin from a red wine in this whiskey, and I think it's probably the rye content that's in there. There's a nice spiciness to it as well. There's a bit of cinnamon in there. There's a little bit of cardamom, but it's not too overpowering. There's some black pepper and a bit of sea salt. That is very, very good indeed. That's really unusual. I've never come across a whiskey. I've not yet come across a whiskey that's got this dry red wine feel to it, and it's very much red wine rather than white wine. It's very much a kind of grape skin, tannin. There's oakiness to it as well. There is an oakiness, and it's woodiness, but it's like it's kind of like Cabernet Sauvignon as well. Just on the background. It's most unusual, but really, really nice. That's a really distinctive whiskey. if you like bourbon, if you like scotch, if you like whiskey, full stop, I really recommend you give this a go if you can find it, because there's not a lot of it about, and it's pretty pricey. I don't think you'll find this anywhere near the UK, to be perfectly honest. They're only just essentially getting out of the Florida market. Marty, Dick, if you're watching, Dick, if you're watching and you need somebody to come across from the UK to come and work for you in Orlando, I'm here if you need me, because that's a really good whiskey. Right, it sounds like my daughter has just woken up because we are still fully jet lagged and all over the place. So I need to go get her to bed. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.